Joseph, what's up, buddy? Under a Biden administration, do you think we will be able to restore Obama-era net neutrality rules? You go on to say, I know that we shouldn't expect that much from a guy who started his presidential campaign off with a fundraiser hosted by a Comcast executive. That's true. He definitely did do that. But it would be nice if we could restore net neutrality at the federal level. Absolutely. So let's talk about that. Joe Biden and digital rights, where we at? So here's where we're at. First of all, let's look at a positive here. With Trump going away, that also means Ajit Pai, head of the FCC right now, he's going to go away too, or at least not be head of the FCC. He might not completely go away. Let's keep in mind it's Obama who brought him into the fold in the first place, but he won't be head of the FCC. That's huge. Ajit Pai, here's what Ajit Pai was. You know how in Gilligan's Island, every time they came close to getting off the island, Gilligan would screw it up somehow? Ajit Pai is to the internet what Gilligan was to Gilligan's Island. You know, like Ajit Pai, like he was just going to completely screw up everything with the internet. Absolutely everything. The difference between Ajit Pai and Gilligan is that Ajit Pai is intentionally evil. Although there is that theory that Gilligan is Satan. Am I fascinated by that theory? Of course I am. I haven't watched enough Gilligan's Island in my lifetime to have an opinion on it, but I do know that theory exists, that Gilligan is actually the devil, and he's keeping them on the island. Have you ever heard that theory? Read into it by people who know more about it than me. I mean, I've seen a couple episodes of the show. I don't, but if you're a connoisseur, and that's kind of, I'm always fascinated by those theories. They fascinate me. Like a lot of cartoons have them. There's that theory that the Rugrats was all they were all figments of Angelica's imagination, and she was a mental patient. That's a fun one. And in reality, Susie, the character Susie in the Rugrats. If you don't know the Rugrats, you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about right now. And somehow we started talking about digital rights. We're now on to Rugrats. I get it. I'm not for everybody. I own that. But anyway, Susie was actually grown up and she was Angelica's therapist. Anyway, look, that's what Ajit Pai was to the internet, is my point. He was completely destructive. What was he going to do should Trump get a second term? He was going to go even further in gutting Section 230 via that Trump executive order. And he was going to gut, they already gutted net neutrality, but he was going to just completely, just eliminate what the rule even was from the books. That was his goal. And he was also going to blow up Section 230 via the Trump executive order. Now, we talked about that on election night, but if you missed it, a quick rehash on what that's all about. So Trump put forth this executive order regarding the internet, and it blew up Section 230. Now, here's what's going on. So Section 230 is that section that does not hold open publishing platforms responsible for the content that is posted on them, i.e., it doesn't hold a Facebook and a Twitter accountable for what people post there. Now, here's the problem, and we all know this problem. Places like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, they're publishing platforms. Anyone can go there and say what they want. But Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube has engaged in a lot of censorship. And it's an overreach. And they have these vague terms and conditions, these vague, community standards. And they've engaged in censorship. So they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're saying, hey, we're an open publishing platform. You can't hold us liable for what anyone posts. Oh, but we're going to go ahead and censor people in an unreasonable manner. So that's an issue. And that's an issue we've talked about a lot on this show. They are trying to have their cake and eat it too. The best solution for this is to either force them to uphold the free speech laws of the United States and have constitutional lawyer professionals involved in all this, or better yet, make them into public utilities, which would also mean they have to uphold the free speech laws of the United States. They can't just censor somebody because they feel like it or because some Tech Valley billionaire decided it was or wasn't news. They have to follow the free speech laws of the United States. So this is a problem that big tech is engaging in. And they really have no interest in correcting this problem. They have no clue what they're doing. So when you hear something like, oh, well, wait a second, this executive order is going to hold them accountable for what gets published on their platform. I like that. They're going to have to answer to somebody. I get that sentiment and I share it. However, this ain't a good thing. Okay. The reason this is not a good thing is because, first of all, Section 230, I mean, it applies to everywhere on the internet. So that's going to make pretty much any entity liable for whatever anyone publishes. Second of all, here's the deal. It just takes that authoritarian, that authority and transfers it to a bunch of FCC bureaucrats. So whoever's running the FCC, they now have the authority to say, well, we don't like what this platform did here, and we're going to do something about it. We're going to come down on them. We're going to delete them. Now, instead of a bunch of Tech Valley billionaires deciding what isn't free speech, Ajit Pai gets to. So you're just transferring authoritarianism. That's not a solution either. Also, here's the deal. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they don't give a hoot about free speech. They don't give a hoot about the exchange of informations and ideas. They give a hoot about their bottom line. That's all they care about. So if they're going to be worried about lawsuits from the federal government and lawsuits from the FCC, you know what they're going to do? They're just going to censor as much as they possibly feel they have to. They'll just outlaw all political speech altogether. That's what they'll do. You're already seeing it happen. After this Trump executive order happened, my channel is demonetized most of the time. I don't have the option to monetize my streams anymore. Randomly, it will come in and out because you guys have complained. But I can't monetize my own streams anymore. I can't do that. Convo Couch got their channel suspended. Krish Mohan was on the risk of losing his YouTube channel. A bunch of other YouTube channels on the left and on other sides of the political spectrum have all been deleted. That's happened. So gutting Section 230 leads to more censorship, not less. And it leads to censorship from all angles. It's censorship from big tech. It's censorship from the FCC. It's censorship from the government. It leads to more authoritarianism, not less. It's the equivalent of saying, hey, somebody has a broken arm. I know what to do. Let's set that person on fire. Now they're ashes on the ground. Well, they don't have a broken arm anymore. Well, okay, they don't have a broken arm anymore. You're right about that part. They don't have a broken arm anymore. So that's what that Trump executive order does. Again, I get the problem. I'm totally on board about the problem. And I know that at first glance, you think this sounds like a good thing. They're going to hold these Tech Valley plutocrats accountable, but that's not actually what it does, though. That's not actually what it does. It's kind of like you're not seeing the whole forest because you're being blocked by a tree that's right in front of you. So it's not a good thing. Now, who favors this executive order? Not just Donald Trump. You know who else does? Joe Biden does. It has bipartisan support. So Joe Biden, he's not good on digital rights issues. And again, and by the way, just for the record, that has nothing to do with his age, because you know who was the best out of the Democratic primary? You know who was the best on all digital rights issues? Bernie Sanders, the oldest guy there. Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders got it right on net neutrality. He got it right on municipal broadband. He had a high-speed internet for all bill. He was the only candidate that had anything like that. And he was the only one to get facial recognition right. Bernie Sanders, the oldest guy there, got it right more so than any other candidate. So where's Joe Biden at with net neutrality now? Moving on to that. So during that Bernie Biden task force, which I think was little more than lip service, they did say that Joe Biden would be appointing a pro-net neutrality FCC head. They also said that Joe Biden himself had evolved on net neutrality. Are either of those two things true? Too soon to tell. I have no idea. I think, and again, this is just a guess, I think Joe Biden isn't really savvy to what's going on digitally, and he is just willfully ignorant. He has no desire to learn about it. Because again, you don't need to be a text expert. You don't need to be a tech expert to understand the ins and outs of net neutrality policy-wise, or municipal broadband, or just digital rights as far as the law goes. You don't need to be an expert in tech to understand those issues from a policy perspective. So Joe Biden is just willfully ignorant. And I think he's just shaped by the people who he surrounds himself with, which in this case are Comcast executives. So to answer your question, I certainly think there's a chance that we could see net neutrality restored during a Biden administration. It all depends on who he appoints to the FCC. And honestly, I think it's all about how adamant we are when he's appointing somebody to the FCC. And it would be great to restore net neutrality. Absolutely. And again, I'm not trying to just focus on the negative. It is a positive that Ajit Pai is out of here. That's a huge positive. That's a win. So that's what's going on there. Joe Biden is no friend to digital rights. And of course, neither was Donald Trump. I mean, both of them were no friend to digital rights. Seeing Ajit Pai gone is a big win. The Trump executive order is a disaster. It does not do what you would like it to do. It does the opposite, actually. It's taking a bad problem and making it worse. And this just goes to the bigger theme. You can't fix a bad situation with horrible policy. You can't do it. It doesn't work that way. And Trump's executive order, it's like the equivalent of, hey, the ACA is a bad piece of policy. Tons of people still don't have health care. How should we fix this? Oh, I know, the AHCA. The Trump plan with Paul Ryan that took health care away from 17 more million people. No, that's not how it works. You don't fix a bad situation with horrible policy. You fix a bad situation with good policy. What's good policy? High-speed internet for all, municipal broadband all over the country, restoring net neutrality. Making these social media companies public utilities, or at least making it so that they need to uphold the free speech laws of the United States. At least. And by the way, they could do that on their own. They could voluntarily do that. If they really were like, we understand that we're the modern day town square. We understand that the law has not caught up to technology. We understand that we're coders. We don't have any right or any qualification to decide what is and isn't free speech. So we're going to hire people who specialize in these issues. They could do that. They choose not to because they don't really care. They just care about their bottom line. So if you put them in a situation where they just need to censor more, guess what? They're going to do it. How do you know that, Ron? Because they already freaking have. So that's where we're at as far as digital rights are concerned. And there's certainly some things to be optimistic about with Ajit Pai. He's going to be out of here with Trump gone. That's a good thing. But it's important as far as, net neutrality is concerned. Who is Biden going to pick as a replacement? And it's important to stay on top of it. Because I'm sure if just left to his own devices, he'll pick someone terrible. I mean, Obama picked Tom Wheeler. Tom Wheeler wasn't great. Tom Wheeler didn't want to put net neutrality on the books. He tried to get around it. He wanted to get around it. But he couldn't. Why couldn't he? Because we, the people, us, crashed their frickin' website, the FCC's website, demanding net neutrality be preserved and demanding that law be put on the books. So honestly, and I know it's a cliche, but I think it's the truth in this case, will a Biden administration bring back net neutrality? It depends on if we make them or not. So we got to make them. Thank you for that question, Joe. That was an excellent question.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together